Hi, this is Melanie of Pardesi Reviews, and I'm joined with Kathy of Cinema on a Podcast, and we're going to talk about the movie Crew. So, what's special about this movie is women, right?
So many women. Yes.
Women, caper comedy. You have Tabu, you have Kareena, Shruti, like
The best Indian actresses around, I think. I love them.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, I was just, the trailer had me pumped. And also Diljit Dosanjh, and I guess sort of a guest appearance.
Yeah, I
was expecting, I'm just going to say I was expecting a lot more Diljit than we got, but okay.
Yeah, I know. It was about the women.
It was totally about the, I said Shruti, I meant Kriti Sanon. So,
Kriti. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I misspoke, everybody. But I was really excited to see Tabu in a comedy.
Yeah.
So this has come onto Netflix recently. I missed it in the theater, so both Kathy and I caught up with it now that it is on streaming. Yeah. The director was Rajesh Krishnan, his only other film was Loot Case. But then the producers are pretty heavy hitters. It's Anil Kapoor and his daughters Ekta and Rhea Kapoor. So I was like, I'm just going to tell you, Kathy, I had really high hopes, and it was okay. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I guess just that star power. You're kind of expecting.
I mean, that's the thing. You've got Kareena, you've got Tabu, you've got Kriti, like all of whom I enjoy in their individual projects. And I don't know, like my expectations, maybe that's part of it. My expectations were so high for how much comedy and how they could play off each other that when it was just kind of mildly amusing, but not, I wasn't like falling off my couch laughing. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. And I do enjoy caper. Mm-hmm. And come to find out that this Kohinoor Airlines and the villainous head of the airlines and all of this is based on a real person. Our partner Amit was letting us know. Let me see if I can see the name of the original airline. Let's see. He did the same thing. It was Kingfisher Airlines. And it was based on Vijay Walia, the character Vijay Walia is based on Vijay Mallya, and he stole millions from a bunch of banks and declared bankruptcy and fled the country. So similar kind of, so they were based. So I'm sure everyone in India knows all of that background, and we're they're riffing on this real story, which completely over my head. I'm not sure if it would increase my enjoyment knowing that a real person did scam people to this extent and fled the country. I don't know, but I'm like,
that's true. That's very true.
I don't know. So what were your impressions when you watched it?
Well, it felt a lot like there was a TV show in America called Good Girls that was on NBC about these women who were struggling. It wasn't a crew, but how they get kind of caught up in some illegal schemes to just kind of get out from under it. One person, they all had their own issues. Like one was a single mom and the other, so it kind of reminded me of that in tone of like, it's sort of got an edge of crime and thriller ish, but then it's mostly kind of broad comedy with the women, characters, it's all about their character. There are a few running gags that I like. I mean, I was expecting, sometimes when stars are so big, they kind of cancel each other out.
Yeah.
So then you kind of have this movie that's kind of flat, a little flat. That's why I'm hoping the Clooney Pitt thing from Apple doesn't collapse under the star power of these people.
But they were in Ocean's 11 together. So
I know. I think but they were diluted by all the other nobodies.
Yeah, that's true.
But
nobody's like Matt Damon. Okay.
And all the other people I couldn't name. No.
Okay.
No, I'm only kidding. But anyway, no, I think sometimes you have these big stars and then the writing is kind of a little bit counting too much, I think, on them to bring it to life versus having a strong script. So you have a little bit of that. But there were some running gags I loved. I loved when the one girl kept throwing up every time she was stressed out. That was hilarious. The Kriti, was she the one doing that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love her. Loved her fashion was spectacular. I mean,
she was showing some
she
skin.
was showing the skin. She was, and she was. I mean,
Hmm.
the stuff was beautiful. She looked amazing,
She
and
did look
everybody looked
amazing.
really cool. I like too the. There were some funny gags, like playing with the idea of how flight attendants are kind of sexy, kind of that old school belief. So I like where the husband's like, do the thing, and she's all like, put the mask are on either side. I thought the exit row. I thought it was funny. He just liked her to do her thing, which was funny. I cannot believe, and maybe this is true, that these people had to work for no pay for 6 months. Now, at that point, I
Yeah.
was like, what? I mean, how could you even live like that? I mean, my God, that was just insane. So you could
Yeah.
see why they were desperate. I mean, you could see
They were
why.
really desperate. Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
Wow. And
we need
I
that.
did like that rather than just being each woman being some sort of stereotype,
Yes.
each one had their own individual backstory of why they were desperate.
Yes.
Tabu wanted to give her husband a chance to have a restaurant. They'd been
Yep.
struggling, whatever. And also she had this ne'er-do-well brother that she felt like she had to support, right? Like,
Ugh.
and so like each, it's like she was so extremely competent at the job and so completely
Yep.
taken advantage of, by the men at the airline. And then we have Kareena, who was trying to do her own business and had this dear little grandfather and whatever, but she was a
Yeah.
little, she was always scamming it. She was always like,
Always.
she was the one that was always like had little sticky fingers, you know and so
Yeah.
I love that she had this little edge to her. It wasn't like, oh yeah, she's just this damsel trying to start her
Mhm.
makeup business or whatever. Like, she was
Right.
trying, but she was struggling. And
Yep.
then Kriti, her whole thing was that she actually was a pilot, but
Mhm.
she couldn't get a job. All she could get a job as was being
Yes.
an airline stewardess. So, and she was hiding this from her parents, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
it just also, there was just a lot of things showing, like again, Tabu being extremely competent,
Mhm.
all of this, and yet, like Kriti couldn't do anything when she was dealing with this car loan, and her dad sold the car. Like, she didn't even have the car anymore, but she had to deal with the car loan.
Ugh.
And he was just like,
Oh,
whose
well.
house are you living in? Right. And
Ugh.
she's like, yeah.
It
So
was really intense. And they had a lot. I thought it was interesting how they were kind of showing how life was different for women in general. But it
yeah,
was done in kind of a flippant, kind of fun way. But it was
right,
still like, there was this voiceover that was kind of explaining, why this was impossible or why this was
right,
impossible. And
right.
I thought that, there was some really interesting commentary on sexism in general, but they didn't take it too seriously, but it's some real stuff. And so I like that
Right.
they
I
actually brought
mean,
that in. It was,
right. I mean, it's like Tabu was the breadwinner of her household,
yeah.
including her ne'er-do-well brother.
Mhm.
And her husband was trying, again, her husband was in the kitchen, like, right? Like, look how they flipped that, right?
Yeah.
That
Yes.
traditionally we have seen, especially in Indian films, the wife, the mother may have started a little home catering
Yeah.
business or something where she cooks out of
Mhm.
her kitchen and whatever. And so instead, it was the husband that was doing that.
That's right.
So
I
I did
liked him
also,
though.
yeah,
I liked
yeah.
him. They didn't
Oh,
make him an enemy. They didn't make him a bad guy. Like,
no,
it'd be
no,
really easy to go, "Here's a strong woman with this loser," but they actually made him seem very supportive, and he was trying, and, they were both
yeah.
trying to work it out. But, I'm glad they didn't go there because that's
No, they
another
did
they
not go.
had the brother satisfy that plot point. It was awful.
That's oh my god,
Oh, God.
the brother.
Ugh.
The part where she finally had enough money to get her brother his own place, and then they closed the door and they were like, yeah, like celebrating. He's out
And
of
then he
our
comes
house.
back.
He's out of our
God, I
hair.
know it's like, kinda like, "Just go. Let us have our life."
All
It's
right,
so funny.
so I don't know if we're not giving huge spoilers. There was a lot about the plot in
Yeah,
itself in the trailer. So if you've seen the trailer, you basically kind of know the deal.
yeah,
I mean, the other thing that I guess disappointed me a little bit is, again, Diljit is so great at comedy, and they kind of
yeah.
had a mini romance. Like, it wasn't, there wasn't a lot there,
No.
and then he wasn't involved in too much of the heavy comedy either. So I was left like,
He was literally the straight man. He was literally like the
yeah,
guy they were bouncing the comedy off of. But I did like them together. I thought that was a really fun plot point. I liked their little,
yeah,
like, they had an interlude, and then they kind of, disappeared, and
Yeah.
then they came back together, and they were like, "Oh, I remember you thought of me.
Right.
Did you
Their
remember me?" Yeah,
their
that was
meet
very cute.
cute in the past was, I will say, very
Very,
meet cute.
very meet
and
cute, very
and I
cheesy.
also would say the music was pretty fire,
Oh, it was
especially
good.
the credit song which Diljit
Mhm.
sang.
Oh, and the
Um,
photography in that last thing. Oh my god, the fashion. So good.
yeah, yeah.
But it
So
was the one thing and it felt a little like uh cliche a little bit when they started getting rolling in the dough and they started getting the money and all that. They just started buying lots of expensive shit. That kind of bugged me.
especially Karina's character. It
Yeah,
was like,
they were taking all these people like, here's me with Chanel, here's me with the car, here's it like,
here's me
why
with a huge thing of champagne. Like,
yeah, why are you doing this? I didn't quite understand why that was necessary because I feel like they were smarter. Like they were kind of past the point where that was what they should do. Like it felt like they'd be smarter than that. So I feel like
yeah,
that was let's have fun.
it felt like Karina's character, yes, like that's kind of
Yes,
what
that's
she
true.
was all about, and that she kind of kept falling down that rabbit hole where she
Yeah,
couldn't get herself out because she would rather spend money on a purse or shoes than
that's true.
invest in a business or whatever.
It was just kind
But
of over the top.
it
But
was very over the top. It's like, okay, we have to have a party scene in a bar. Like, let's have Tabu hold a huge champagne bottle.
yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy. But I like how they got a reality check. They had all that, the classic, montage of them doing all the spending, like we're rolling in it, yay. And then they have the one flight attendant whose kid is having trouble. She can't afford the school, and they run into her, and she's kind of like, what are you guys doing? Like we're working the same job that's not paying us. What's up? And she seems so sad. I kind of
Yeah.
wish they did a little bit of that at the end. I feel like they've done a little bit more where maybe they either clued her in more. Like I
Yeah.
felt
I
like that
don't
was
know.
kind of a little bit of a loose end, but I
Yeah.
did appreciate that they showed that contrast of like, the women who were willing to commit the crimes to the one who didn't have a shot and they wouldn't even help her. It's like, okay. It was a little I did also enjoy, which I always love in these kind of caper movies, is how they go about committing the crime. I love
Yeah.
that montage
I
of
liked
they
that.
have bars of gold. What are you gonna do with bars of gold? How do you transport them? I thought that was a pretty genius idea.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Riffing on something that a lot of Indian people have in their suitcase. So I will
Well,
tell you, having just visited India, my husband again was not sitting down to watch it, but walking through the room, he's like, they better show people standing up before it's time to stand up from the plane.
I love that. I love when they were yelling at him, sit down.
Sit down.
He's all, whoa. That was really funny. I did like the little gags with the passengers. Those were pretty funny too.
Yeah. Well, and the way Kriti dealt with a very handsy passenger.
Very good.
I love that. I love that
Right.
as
It was
well.
so good.
So, like I said, I'm not trying to trash this movie. I'm just saying because my expectations were maybe a little
Yeah.
too high for it that I came away a little bit disappointed.
Mhm.
But for heaven's sake, it's on Netflix. If you already subscribe, it's not like I'm telling you to go spend $15 to go see this in the theater, right? So
Right.
it's definitely still worth a watch. And listen, how about more comedies or more in general with these all these women in movies again? Like I'm all about it,
Yeah.
right? Let's give us some more. I would definitely like some more. So, and it's
Definitely.
always awesome to see Kareena back on screen too, and especially
Always.
and Tabu, like the goddess,
And Kriti.
the
And
goddess.
there's so many good people in this. And I liked it. It's a really fun watch. It's really light. It's super glossy. It's well shot. It looks gorgeous. It looks expensive.
Yeah,
Everybody, I love just the outfits, the lots of shots of them walking through the airport, and they look like that Virgin
yeah,
ad that they had years ago. They just show the women walking through the airport.
yeah.
Just that
Whoever
and that.
their air hostess uniforms, wow,
Uh,
they look
So good.
good.
So I just
And
liked how the whole thing looked. It was just great, and I loved just seeing them on the job was fun. Just seeing how they did that, and
yeah,
there was some fun stuff. I enjoyed it on a very light. It wasn't very deep. It was very light, frothy, kind
yeah,
of silly movie that had a few little light things to say about some heavy duty subjects, and then
right.
basically, it's an easy watch. We'll say
It is an easy
it's an
watch.
easy watch.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right,
Kathy, for
sure.
joining me and discussing Crew. And you need to subscribe to both of our channels because You'll find us both places, doing reactions, doing film discussions like this. So Kathy is on Sit 'em on the podcast. You have to follow her there. And you can find me all the usual places. Kathy always laughs. I go, X, Threads.
So many places.
So many places.
Oh
anyway.
my God.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Kathy. Bye.
Bye.